Okay, so as we said, a lot to think about there. Of course, the advent of AI links to energy and indeed the energy capacity that will be required to deliver it. It made me think of the Dubai property market with the land grab for data centers slightly hotter than some of the developments coming on stream here in Dubai as well. We heard about AI fading into the background. We heard about it being an enabler, but the fact of the matter is that it will cause disruption. But again, because it's delivering value, it will enable ultimately an increase in productivity and higher GDP. So that's been the major focus from this panel discussion. And of course, looking at talking of digital assets and AI, don't forget that nice and bright and early at 9 a.m. tomorrow in this very room, we do have His Excellency Omar Sultan Al Olama. He is the Minister of State for AI and Digital Economy, and he will be giving us an address on the ecosystem here, of course, in Dubai, and how that bridges to global opportunities as well. So, just so you're aware, and put that date in your diary. Okay, we're just moving some furniture. They're nearly done. We're going to have to get them to get a move on, but double time, gentlemen, please. We've got our next panel coming up, and it's kind of building slightly on what we were talking about there, AI, but in a different space. We're going to be talking about the digital palette, where art is meeting investment. Quite an interesting one, and we will be seeing in the break what happens here. But of course, talking about digital canvas not being a blank space, but indeed a vibrant, dynamic stage where the future of art is being painted in bold, vibrant strokes. Now, we're seeing a bit of a paradigm shift here in art, particularly if you're a little bit old-fashioned, and particularly if you're considering art investment. We've all witnessed what's happened, but what we can see is a more transparent market. It's more accessible, and it is definitely more diverse. Joining us now to discuss this, we have leaders that not only know how to invest in the digital art space, but also they're going to discuss that change of perspective that I mentioned and how we not only value but experience art as well. So I would love to invite to the stage to have this discussion so we can learn more Marcel Kasimowicz, the Deputy CIO of Coinbase Asset Management in the USA and UAE. He brings over 30 years of experience in policy and investing with roles at the IMF and the Soros Fund Management. So Marcel, please come on up to the stage. And also he will be joined by Sean Moss-Pultz, the co-founder of Feral File and the founder of Bitmark in the US as well. Pioneers of the integration of blockchain technology and property rights. So welcome to the stage. Very much excited. Look forward to it.
Hold on. Oh, are we back? How are we? There we go. Hello, friends. So today we're going to talk about digital art. And I'm the perfect person to talk about it because I know very little about it. It was actually a year ago at this very conference, listening to Sean describe digital art, that I was very, very much captivated by it and saw it as the future. And I tackle things from a macro perspective, so I really needed to have a framing for understanding why I saw this as the future in many ways. And what I came up against as a framework was to say, okay, the marginal cost of transacting between you and I is going to zero. The margin, and that's because of crypto technologies. It's going to allow us to exchange property rights for free. Marginal cost of power is going to zero, and that's going to be things like nuclear fusion, right? We saw this kid in Italy for his high school project crack the code on nuclear fusion. CERN is still having a hard time figuring it out. We also see that the marginal cost of intelligence is going to zero. So what is that world? That's a world of abundance. And we live in a world of scarcity where we're always fighting for resources. We want the better phone, we want the better car, we want the bigger house. So what does abundance give us? It gives us enlightenment. So that's the high state of enlightenment. And then I think, okay, that's great. So then what are we left with? If everything becomes abundant and easy, what are we left with? Where do we generate the friction and the scarcity? Through art. That's all we're left with. And then when I think of art, the future of art ends up being digital art. So I say, okay, that's great. I get a framing for this, but then I'm stuck because I don't know how to invest in digital art. And that's when the collaboration came, and Superbridge actually acted as a superbridge to then merge between an idea to what is soon to be a reality in delivering art as an investment to both myself and this broader audience and the world at large. And that's the motivation for this discussion. Of course, art in many ways is an expression of freedom, and this is my art jacket. I only have one, and it's with this in mind that I'm thrilled to introduce to you Sean Moss-Poltz, who's going to walk us through some details on the history of art and how we're integrating that into an investment concept. So, Sean, thanks for being here and welcome. Yeah. Oh, that's bright. All right, you guys are in for a treat. So what we need, if we're going to think about art as an investment, we have to have a framing. We have to have somebody that really understands what it is.
Does this work okay?
Yeah, it works great. And I think a very natural place to start, Sean, is the evolution of art. Where did we start, and how did we end up getting to AI art, code-based art?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, when they first see this new form of art, they think there's something like revolutionary, extraordinary about this particular moment. And actually, art has evolved for thousands of years. And it's evolved in the direction of portability. So a few thousand years ago, if you wanted to see great art, you had to go to a church. You had to go into a building. Art was architecture, really. And then it became more portable. Oil and canvas. And if you go to any art fair over the last, say, 200 years, all you will see is oil and canvas. Okay, maybe there'll be some sculptures, but this more portable form of art just took over. Okay? And what I want to show you today is the future of art. And the reason it's the future is because it's just more portable. It's alive. Instead of dead oils and things that exist at one point on canvas and it never changes. This is a world of evolving art. Every time you see it, it's different. I think this is really the most exciting form of art that humans have ever created.
That's super interesting. Would it be productive to then see a couple of examples?
Yeah, I want to show you a couple of examples. I selected two. Can you go next slide? So this is a real-time generative artwork, and it was trained on all of the data inside the MoMA. So this was a project that we did together with Rafiq Anadol and the lead curators at MoMA. I think this was probably a real tipping point in the history of digital art, in that an institution like MoMA, maybe we could say legitimized this whole field that's been growing for the past, say, 60, 70 years almost. And this was an incredible moment where this artwork was installed in the lobby and over 3 million people saw it. It was more people than any exhibition MoMA has ever had. And on average, when people went there, they stayed for 30 minutes. If you go to MoMA, I like to walk the 6th floor where some of the classics are, and people look at art for 20 seconds, maybe a minute. So this was really spectacular, what I think was happening here. Let me show you one more work. So this is from my own personal collection. This is an artwork that is, it really resonated with me. So this was written as a bio-sim. Again, it's generative. You can put it on any size screen from a phone to the Burj. Like, it would scale to the entire thing. It's written in 32 kilobytes of code. So if any of you have ever written software, to be able to write a fully functioning BioSim in 32 kilobytes, I mean, that's just like next level coding. I just find it incredibly beautiful. I like to put it up on my wall and just like tap on my phone and it moves. It really does feel alive. This artist frequently does simulations for NASA to just understand how these type of models can work and can evolve.
Very interesting. So before we get into the investment side of things, let me just pull on a couple of threads here. So you have these versions of digital art. In the old days, mobility was a critical issue. So is that issue now solved? Is it, you own this art. Are you tempted to rent out that art so that I can also enjoy it? How do you think about the mobility of that art, or how do you think the next generation? I'm the older generation, so somebody said the current generation. I'm definitely the older generation, but I'm captivated by this. So then you own this art. How do you think about that mobility? Is that a consideration you have generationally, or things of that nature?
I like to tell my family that I'm building this art collection for the next generation. And so I have a son, he's 11. He just turned 11, and I asked him what did he want for his birthday. Right? Do you want new shoes? Do you want a skateboard? And he says no, he wants skins for Fortnite. This idea of digital expression, of having things that are digital that become part of your identity. I mean, this is just second nature to this new generation. I know it can be difficult to imagine how ones and zeros that you have in files could be valuable. In a moment, we have some art outside you can look at. Some of those artworks are already millions of dollars, okay, in an incredibly short period of time. And I think they'll only get more valuable because this is the earliest stage of that transition. And it seems like roughly every 500 years, there's a really big shift in the portability of art that allows for a much, much larger audience to experience good art. Most people today, maybe you go to a museum once or twice a year. If you don't live in a major city, you don't get to see the world's best art. And in this format, in the digital format, you actually get to see the original, the code that runs on whatever computer you have, whether that's a phone or a television or a laptop. That code is the original code. So it's like, instead of looking at Wikipedia and seeing Mona Lisa, like you actually get to see the authentic artwork. And I think that's just incredibly, that's one of the most like amazing parts of this whole movement, I think, is just people get to see authentic art the way that it was made to be seen.
Interesting. I'm going to pull on one more thread,
yeah,
and then we'll move, I promise. How do I think about scarcity in this world? Like if I look at a painting, we know it's scarce. There can be parameters where we can define why it's unique, why people value it, how they value it. That's all fine. We can all do that ex post. But there's going to be something in art that draws on our consciousness, that a machine can analyze ex post. The machine can say, this is what this art's doing, and this is why it's interesting. But there's something in our conscious, be it dreams or whatever it may be, however you want to think about that state, that draws you to the art, that creates an emotional reaction. And then after the fact, we'll define value. Now, in an instance like this, I can imagine once I get into your head and I understand what you're drawn to, I can create an infinite amount of that art. So how do I think about scarcity in the context of AI art, digital art, code-based art?
Well, maybe I could steal a line from my friend Raphael. He's an artist. He's talking tonight, so I hope you guys can come listen. And he says artists, they have almost like an antennae into the future. And they're picking up signals of things that are going to change, that are changing. And they're able to show you that in a question. What is scarcity like in the future? This is a huge question of mine. I mean, I very much want to live in a world of abundance. I think that's fascinating. I don't know how long it will take us to get there. I don't know if we will get there. But I do know that art has always been scarce, And there is a set of technologies now, specifically these protocols that people call blockchains, that allow us to have scarcity in a decentralized way, where it doesn't rely upon particular individuals, particular institutions to maintain that scarcity. And so I think the artists will play with scarcity, they'll play with abundance, they'll play with these ideas, and we can learn from that. One of the most remarkable things I heard when we were working on the artwork for MoMA's collection was some of the main curators at MoMA, they actually felt that they learned more about MoMA, they learned more about their own collection through the machine learning, through the AI, what was coming out of this, that was written using a GAN algorithm. And the artworks that came out of that, in some ways, were, I don't know, dare I say more MoMA than MoMA? It was sort of the future of MoMA. And I think at its best, artists and this art will help us to understand how to be more human. Ideas like scarcity, ideas like abundance, they'll be exploring this so we can learn from them.
Interesting, interesting. So I'm going to make one observation, then we'll switch over to the investment side. So innovation leads to abundance. So I think that's our natural state. So think of food. I mean, if you haven't tried the blueberries from UAE, they're remarkable. They're really remarkable. And you think, how on earth are they growing blueberries in the UAE? And there's a really elaborate ag tech component to it. So you see this in all facets of life, where we used to have to work really, really hard to get food on the plate. Now we can have whatever we want for a fraction of our salaries. So the state of abundance is natural. And then we impose scarcity in some ways through competition, because we love to compete. So we'll create little games where we'll force people to kick a ball around this fixed square and put it in a goal over a certain amount of time. I mean, these are fun things to watch. This is art. This is what we converge to. So now when we think of this in the context of investing, what I think of is, okay, we have this future. My rule of thumb in investing is never short innovation. After last year's talk, I wake up in a cold sweat and I say, I'm short the future. If the future is digital art, I'm short. So we have to solve this problem. So the problem I'm trying to solve is, how do we take everything in your brain and in your network and codify it in a way where people like me that aren't experts in this space can understand it and invest in it. And that's what we're introducing next as an investment concept. Maybe we just hit the next, yeah. That's okay. This is a good one. So what art is an investment, AAI. You have to play on AI. I mean, everybody loves AI, so it has to have AI in the name. It's the ultimate hype cycle. So AAI art is an investment. What are we trying to do? We're trying to take the principles that Sean just describes, make them rules-based, and define what that digital art market is. And then we send that to a regulator and say, okay, we think this is what the digital art market is. See if you agree, and see if you can update it every 6 months. And if you can, this will become a benchmark for the market. Now think of what an investor does that isn't an expert in specific names. What that investor does is says, I want to be long equities because the Fed's cutting interest rates. Great. They're going to go out and buy an index. And they're not going to be experts in NVIDIA or any other asset, but they're just going to buy the index because they want the allocation to that asset class. And then what the experts will do is then say, okay, now I have a benchmark. I'm going to outperform that benchmark because I work harder, because I understand the names better, whatever that may be. And I think we're going to see the same evolution in the context of art. As this future is realized, we need a benchmark to define what that market is. That benchmark has to have analytic and regulatory rigor, which is taking Sean and cohort's brain and putting it into a set of rules, defining that benchmark. And then if you want exposure to digital art, you can be long the benchmark, understanding that whatever happens in that benchmark, there's a better asset. I mean, if you picked the best asset in the S&P 500 every day, you would massively outperform the market. You can't do it. That's why people who are just looking for exposure don't play that game. But it may be that over time you become an expert. You understand those components exceptionally well, and then you may take positions relative to that index that adds a lot of value or adds a lot of creative input to the future of that market. So what we're trying to do with art as an investment is codify those factors. And I would love to understand, Sean, as you think about the factors, like what are some of those factors that would help define a benchmark for the digital art market that can be durable into the future?
Yeah, so we're looking at artworks, were they collected by major institutions? We're looking at historical sales data, kind of all of the basic kind of market information you'd like for any kind of asset. And we're also looking at some almost qualitative things like how about their social media following. These we've seen have a really big impact on the careers of individual artists. And we're trying to make this as analytical as possible and also sort of the widest possible type of art. So I showed a few different artworks. They're very, very different. There's such a wide range of artworks. There's things from digital sculptures all the way to video and really everything in between. We're trying to capture what we think of as sort of the best of that universe. And all of the data that we use will be open source. Everyone can go have a look at it and try to backport it, see what it would look like in 2021, what about 2022? So really trying to just figure out how to help educate the public on what's happening here. I think it's extremely early right now. I like to tell my friends that, come on guys, you can buy Picassos for $100. Like, what are you doing? Why aren't more people collecting this? There's just incredible art available right now, and you don't need to go to an exclusive gallery to get it. It's kind of hard to buy. You have to deal with these crypto wallets. There's all kinds of tricky stuff. And so part of the reason I'm excited about this index is my hope is that it will bring a lot more people into the space. And to be frank, this space just needs more people. It needs more action, needs more energy.
That's excellent. Really, really appreciate it. Maybe we just pause there. We're actually 1 minute and 30 seconds behind schedule, which is pretty impressive. But if it's the right time to, one more. I apologize.
One more slide.
Whoa. So we are not ahead. Yeah, this is actually a great slide. So if you want to see what it looks like and how to participate, there's your code.
Yeah. So
there's your art.
Last year at the first Superbridge, I got up here and I shared some examples of some of the art that we've shown. And afterwards, a lot of people came to me and they wanted to buy art. They wanted to start collecting art. What happened was, I think once they started to understand, it's still very difficult to collect things that are based on blockchain. You have to deal with private keys. There's all of this security complexity, privacy issues, all kinds of things that make people nervous. And what we thought was, hey, wouldn't it be neat if instead of having to buy and own and hold on to this stuff, what if you could just rent it? Like, what if you could just put it in your home? Bring this art into your home? And so we created a membership. So Ferrophile, the company that I co-founded, we have shown to date now around 15,000 artworks. So I think one of the largest digital art collections in the world. We created a playlist, sort of a sub-collection of artworks. And in a moment, Whitney, she'll bring everyone outside to show some of the art. But we also put together a playlist for anybody at Superbridge this time. And you can bring this art into your home. You can bring it into everyday life. This is something that I'm really, really passionate about helping people to do. I want to make this incredibly easy to put great art up in your home. So this is a collection. I believe we have 11, maybe 12 artworks, things that we think are fantastic. You won't own it, but you have rights to put it up in your home. You have rights to display it. And these two pillars moving forward are how we think we can bring this form of art to a much larger audience. So a membership for people that want to experience it in their home, in everyday life, and then also a vehicle for people that would like to treat this as an investment.
Yeah, look, I think where this becomes very important, think of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ETF. Wasn't that hard to buy Bitcoin? You put an ETF wrapper on it with BlackRock, who's an expert in the financial space, and assets just swarmed into it, which demonstrated that people didn't have the comfort. And I think by providing that on-ramp, by providing that comfort, be it initially visually and then through an investment, I think it's super important. It is a little more complicated than people like generally, but they want to consume it. So I think this is a great start. So there's your code. Enjoy it.
And please, would love some feedback, what you like, what you don't like. We tried to put together a collection of art that we think would resonate with a large audience, but please let me know.
So let's welcome Whitney to the stage, who's going to guide you through a really interesting display that has been set up outside. Please, Whitney.
Hi, I'm not going to come all the way up on the stage because we are going outside. But there are 6 screens outside that are set up as a digital art gallery, and I will be out there to talk about the different art pieces. And we also have artist Raphael Rosendahl with us, and he has one of the works on display, and he will talk about that as well. So hopefully we will see you out there to show you the gallery.